Sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Click the link in the description and enter promo code Undecided for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. It took a while, but I finally got my Tesla Powerwall installed. There's a few things that I learned going through the process that might be useful if you're thinking about getting a home battery installed. So let's go through what you should know before getting a Tesla Powerwall, and my first impressions of it. I'm Ferrell. Welcome to Undecided. First off, I want to thank all of you who used my Tesla referral code over the past couple of years. This Powerwall, as you can probably tell by the color, is a Founders Edition Powerwall that I earned through the referral program. So I only had to pay for the installation, but I'll run through all of the costs and my first impressions in a bit. Getting this installed was a bit of a comedy of errors. There wasn't one big gotcha or anything like that, but just a bunch of small road bumps and blips that collectively made up for an incredibly frustrating, almost 4-month-long experience. And it's what I've learned from that I want to share with all of you so you know what to look out for, what to ask for, and what to expect. Now, while my path had some bumps, I've still got a fully functional Powerwall that's already impressed me a lot. Now, there's 2 basic categories of things that you should know about when installing a home battery. First is understanding what your energy requirements are. It's the same thing you need to know if you're getting solar. But with a battery system, it's important because of the electrical load that it's capable of supporting. If you don't have energy monitoring set up in your home like I do with my Sense, then you could get a ballpark figure by looking at your electric bill. Just look at the kilowatt hours that you use every month to see how much electricity that you use on average. And then create a list of your major appliances and items around your house, like your HVAC, your refrigerator, your stove, pool, you name it. And then write down their power draw in watts. You can usually find this on labels on the device or online. Now, if you add them all up, you'll start to get a high-level sense of what your home might use in kilowatts if everything was turned on. And there's some good reasons why doing this is important. I've covered this in a previous video, but home batteries have a limitation for their continuous power output. The Powerwall has a cap at 5 kilowatts continuous power, with a peak load up to 7 kilowatts. These limitations are per Powerwall, so if you have 2 of them, you'd have a max of 10 kilowatts continuous power output available. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. You take that number from your appliance tally and you understand how many Powerwalls you might need to support 100% of your use if everything was running. In my case, 1 Powerwall isn't quite enough, but that's totally fine. It really depends on what your goals are with the battery backup. For me, I'm most interested in providing a base level of backup to keep things like heat going in the winter during a power outage and to keep the refrigerator from defrosting. Now, if you're like me and your goal isn't 100% coverage, there are a couple of options. One path is what I have here. This Powerwall is backing up my entire electric panel, so in theory, everything in the house could run during a blackout, just not all together. The other path I could have taken was adding a sub-panel which would carve out essential load circuits. That sub-panel could have had things like my HVAC, refrigerator, and a few other items in there, and then the Powerwall would only back up that group, and everything else in the house would go dark in a blackout. Now, going into this, I had a basic understanding of that, but didn't really think about it until I was way into the process and it was already starting to get installed. The installer I went with was not Tesla, and they didn't walk me through any of my options. They were just gonna do a straight install, but never even brought up the other things I might want to consider doing. Now, when I realized this was the case, I started asking questions, which caused a brief delay to the installation date. This was my first road bump in the install process, which is why I bring it up. Make sure you do your homework before you leap in, because there's no guarantee your installer is going to be proactive and inform you of your options up front. Now, whichever path you choose for your setup, you might want to consider getting a soft start for appliances like your HVAC. As I mentioned, the Powerwall has a peak load capacity of 7 kilowatts, but when you push it into that zone, you risk tripping the Powerwall's emergency shutdown if you overload it with something like your HVAC kicking on in a blackout. Now, major appliances like that have a sizable spike in power draw when the motor kicks on, so a soft start can dramatically shave off that power spike. Now, some installers recommend doing this as par for the course. Mine didn't, but I may add one down the road, and again, knowing this up front means that you can ask the right questions of your installer. And if you're installing this with solar and want to ensure that your home can go indefinitely in a power outage, you need to make sure that you're balancing the battery's power capacity with the output capacity of your solar panel system. If your solar panels can output more power than your battery can take in, the battery system will have to shut off the panels during a blackout at times to manage that intake. Otherwise, it's too much power for the battery to handle. The second category of things to be aware of is how prepared your home is to handle a Powerwall in the first place. And the first thing you have to look at is, do you have a service disconnect switch? To my knowledge, I've never lived in a house with a separate service disconnect switch. It's standard procedure for newer homes, but all of the older homes I've lived in haven't had one. They're usually just gigantic switches near the power meter, or sometimes they're on the meter box itself. Now my house didn't have one. The main circuit breaker in my panel was acting as the service disconnect too. Well, with a Powerwall, or any battery system for that matter, you're going to need a service disconnect. That bit me in the butt when one of my electricians stopped by the night before the install to scope out the setup in person. He spotted the lack of a service disconnect right away, which delayed the project significantly. They had to coordinate with the electric company for shutting off the service temporarily and had to install the disconnect at the same time as the Powerwall. Now, I'm still not sure why they didn't include questions about this in my self-evaluation form that I filled out, or why nobody caught it in the photos that I took. That's the next big road bump that I experienced, which brings me back to asking lots of questions up front. You can't rely on your installer for having procedures in place to mitigate this type of thing from happening, but in my opinion, a good installer should have had that covered, like having a simple question about service disconnects in the self-evaluation form. If it's required, they should have confirmed that it's there up front. Now happily, this next one wasn't a road bump for me, but be sure to select a place with plenty of space. The Powerwall comes with a gateway, which is what manages where the power goes. It's the brain of the system. The gateway itself needs about 2 feet of width and 3 feet of height, and the Powerwall itself requires about 4 feet by 5 feet for each Powerwall and about 6 feet open in front of it. And you need a really good Wi-Fi connection in the area of the gateway or an available Ethernet jack for a wired network connection. Now overall, my installation experience wasn't great. It wasn't one big thing that caused problems. It wasn't one person's fault that I got hit with lots of delays. It wasn't 100% the installer's fault, and I'm not blameless in this either. The Powerwall arrived at my home on July 29th, but wasn't installed and activated until November 20th. That's almost 4 months. Some of my late questions caused delays. The lack of a service disconnect switch caused more delays. Some really bad communication issues with my installers left me in the dark for the better part of 7 weeks. But they fixed that. But one of the giant issues behind the scenes was 2020 itself. Now, COVID caused issues for my installer and made scheduling very tough. But my favorite moment from the whole thing, the day they installed the Powerwall and hung it on the wall, the electrician discovered that there was a missing part, a communications wire harness, which probably costs about $1, or less even. So the whole thing was set up, but couldn't be turned on for several more weeks because of that one tiny missing part. When the final setup was completed, a different electrician ran a new set of communication cabling on the outside of the conduit, even though the previous electrician supposedly already ran some inside. Now, I'm not thrilled about that, but the system works. And if I get a second Powerwall, I most likely will get that fixed up. But to be very clear, my experience isn't normal, and none of you should think of what happened to me as what your experience will be like too. Since this was a referral reward, I was given the option of having Tesla install it, or selecting my own installer and they'd ship it to me directly. That's the path I went. And for all of you out there, your installer will show up with your Powerwall on the day they're going to install it. So you won't have a Powerwall sitting on your garage floor for months. Me? I chose my option poorly. I should have let Tesla do it. As for the cost, the installation cost $2,500, including the cost of installing the service disconnect switch. That would have made the total cost for the Powerwall and gateway about $10,500. Now the price is going to vary based on your specific situation and what you want done, like having a sub-panel installed for essential load carve-outs and any other upgrades that might be needed to support a home battery. Now I got installation quotes that range from $2,500 that I paid to up to $7,000, so make sure you shop around. But how is the Powerwall? Now, before I get to that, I'd like to thank Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I know we're not traveling much right now, like me being stuck at home with a Powerwall for months, but I still like to use my VPN when I want to protect my privacy online. Surfshark encrypts all of the data that you send over the internet, so your passwords, messages, photos, videos, and whatever you're doing online stays private. A lot of online services use some pretty sophisticated commercial targeting and tracking, and a VPN can protect you from that. With Surfshark's Clean Web, it'll block ads, trackers, and malicious websites, making it safer to use the internet even at home. One of the best parts of Surfshark is that it's easy to set up on all of your devices, whether that's iPhone or Android, Mac or PC. Surfshark is the only VPN to offer one account to use with an unlimited number of devices. Use my code to get 83% off plus 3 extra months for free. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out for yourself. Link in the description below, and thanks to Surfshark and to all of you for supporting the channel. So how is the Powerwall? Well, it's kind of awesome. I've only had it up and running since the end of November, but I'm super impressed by it already. If you've seen any of my solar panel videos where I go in depth into how my solar panel system has been working out, you'll know that the wintertime is my lowest solar production. So this time of year isn't gonna keep my battery full by any stretch. But I'm very excited for this just as a battery backup for winter power outages. Anyone that lives in the Northeast knows what I'm talking about. Nor'easters, freezing rain, strong winds, really heavy wet snow. It can really take down tree limbs and power lines, so power outages aren't uncommon. In my area, they may only last for a few hours, but we've had a couple that lasted for a day or two. The Powerwall has some really nice controls for managing this type of thing. And I absolutely love the Tesla app UI for this, by the way. I'm mesmerized by the power flow screen that shows exactly where your energy is coming from and going. I can't stop checking this out. I even figured out how to get it showing up in my Apple Home app. Anyway, in the app you can configure how the battery should work. There's 3 basic modes: backup only, self-powered, and advanced. Backup only shouldn't need an explanation, and self-powered, which is what I have it set to, will store excess solar power production for use when there isn't sun. And here you can configure how much your battery should be reserving for backup power. And since this is the lowest point of the year for me for solar production, and I want to maximize my backup potential for storms, I have it set to 50% for right now. The advanced option is really meant for people who have time of use rates. It will charge and discharge the battery to maximize savings for you. Now, where I live in Massachusetts, we don't have time of use, so that's not a good option for me. But within the first couple of weeks of having this set up and running, we got a really bad snowstorm that came through. Really heavy, wet snow and high winds, which ended up knocking out power for lots of people around New England. We didn't lose power, but I got to see the storm watch in action for the first time. The system detected the storm warning and automatically charged my battery up to 100% the night before the storm, and it kept it there for the duration. Locked and loaded, ready to go. That alone made the long wait totally worth it. It's that type of automation for emergency backup that got me so excited about the Powerwall in the first place. Now, there's a lot more I could go into about this, but I'm gonna wait until I've gone through the winter and I've gotten some better solar production as well. I've also applied to be part of a virtual power plant system with my Powerwall, so I'm hoping to be able to share some experiences about that as well. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to not miss out on that full review for the Powerwall and my experiences with it down the road. And I hate being that YouTuber asking you to hit that bell. I can't stand saying that, but it's the only way to make sure you don't miss out on new videos. Only about 12% of you have done it, by the way. So let's see if we can get that up to 15%. Heck, let's live a little. Let's go for 20%. Now jump into the comments and let me know what you think about the Powerwall or home batteries in general. Do you have one? Do you want one? If you like this video, be sure to check out one of the ones I have linked to right here. And as always, thanks to all of my patrons and to all of you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.